I don't smoke, by the way. I just keep this to light birthday candles and ignite burglars after I've tied them up. Hi, guys, and welcome to the latest episode in my Stephen King adaptations review series. You'll find all my other episodes in my Stephen King playlist. I've got over 30 in there at the moment. I've been doing this for quite some time already, and yet I'm still only at 80s King, which is absolutely crazy. So, Firestarter 2 was directed by Robert Iscove. You might remember him from such productions as Mission of the Shark and Ten Commandments, the musical. I really enjoyed the original Firestarter novel by King. It's one of his most underrated, in my opinion. And the 80s movie starring Drew Barrymore is a very faithful adaptation. But King never wrote a Firestarter 2. He had the chance a few years ago, so he brought this novel out called The Institute. I've not read it, but apparently it's about kids with special abilities, and if the great man was ever going to do a sequel to Firestarter, there was his opportunity. He could have done it with The Institute, but he decided not to. But back in 2002, some bright spark, no pun intended, decided that there should be a Firestarter sequel. And so we ended up with this film slash television show. And the reason I'm saying it like that is because this could technically be called a mini series. I had to buy it on DVD because I couldn't find it to rent anywhere. And I was most distressed when I put the disc in to realize that this is 2 hours and 41 minutes long. I did not like discovering that, believe you me. This is literally a fire that just won't go out. It's one of those where you pour water on it and it's so hot, the fire will literally just keep on burning. Superman needed to come over with like a lake of ice, drop it on this movie halfway through, and then it would be a more manageable 80 to 85 minutes. The plot is basically a rehash of the first one. So Charlie McGee, now an adult, is on the run again from government agents again. They don't even have the decency to call themselves the Shop. They're just random government agents, again being led sort of by John Rainbird. This confused me because I thought he died at the end of the first one in both the novel and the film, and yet he's back here. Seemingly he survived the fire, albeit not without injury. He's played by Malcolm McDowall in this one, and they've totally Loomised this character. So he's got like black gloves on and scars down his face. So he's like Loomis from Halloween 4, in other words, a character who shouldn't have survived a fire from a previous film. And the great irony, of course, is that Malcolm McDowell would go on to play his own version of Loomis much later down the line. All very confusing, but looking at this version of Rainbird and the way that they've made him up, I just wanted him to go on a big rant where he says something like, "You better get on that radio and tell them exactly where Charlie McGee's going and tell them exactly what she's capable of. And for God's sake, why did you teach her to drive a car?" But he doesn't do anything like that because Rainbird is far too villainous to help out any local sheriffs. Unfortunately, Malcolm McDowell is not very good at playing bad guys. He's far too cartoony in this film. It's like a pantomime performance. It's pretty awful. McDowell just doesn't do villains, period. He was bad in Star Trek Generations. I can't remember if it was a villain he was playing in Silent Hill Revelation, but that film is so bad across the board. I imagine that McDowell was probably bad, even though I can't specifically remember his part. And yeah, he's certainly bad here. The only time I've enjoyed watching him is when he's playing a sort of good guy, i.e., like Dr. Loomis. But this performance is just painful. And the character as depicted here is so far away from what King wrote in his original book. King described this guy as like this big tall Indian with one eye missing. Even the first movie didn't get this quite right. They hired an American with a suntan, as far as I can remember. And here we've gone even further away. Now it's a random thespian from Liverpool. What's next in Firestarter 3? Are they going to turn the character into a woman? Oh, Charlie's burned his balls off and now it's Jane Rainbird. I thought it would be a very safe prediction that this would be a very cheap knockoff sort of a sequel. Although one thing that did give me a little bit of hope was the fact that Dennis Hopper's name was attached to it. I thought maybe he could save this in the same way that he kind of saves Texas Chainsaw 2, because I really like his performance in that film. One of my favorite scenes from it is when he goes to that chainsaw shop and he gets two of them and he's sort of waving them around and he's completely unhinged. I wanted him to play a similar character in Firestarter 2. Maybe a guy who wants to get revenge on Charlie for some dude she roasted in the first movie, maybe. I wanted to see Hopper going to a flamethrower store, picking up two of them, and then sort of like crisscrossing the flames, like rage dripping down his face, like. Argh. But no, he doesn't do anything like that. In this film, he plays a very boring ex-scientist. This is one of the most subdued Dennis Hopper performances I think I've ever seen. He doesn't even turn up until the second half of this. So when this aired, I imagine that with adverts, it probably came to like 3 hours, say, and probably they put like an hour and a half of it on one night and then an hour and a half another night. Well, Hopper is only in the second half pretty much. So I'm guessing they could only afford him for one half, whereas all the other actors in the film, they were quite happy to pay for two halves. The leading lady, you won't be surprised to learn, is not Drew Barrymore. She did not return, even though in 2002 she would have been about the right age to play a young adult version of Charlie McGee, but for whatever reason she's not in this. I'm guessing it was more her choice than the studios, but who knows. But the lady who's come in to replace her, Marguerite Moreau, that's got to be a stage name. She's actually pretty good. So I've never heard of this actress before. She looks the spit of a British actress called Roxanne McKee. In fact, all the way through this film, every time Charlie's on the screen, I just kept thinking, Roxanne McKee, Roxanne McKee. It's uncanny how alike those two ladies are, but she's actually pretty good, this girl, Marguerite Moreau, and yet she's fighting against all the odds because the script is absolutely awful, but she conducts herself pretty well as an actress in this. She tries. One slight difference this time around is that Rainbird has an army of kids with him who have all got their own special abilities. So it's like he's put this little army together to take on Charlie. I don't know where these kids came from. They're just kind of there in the movie. And why is it that Rainbird seems to now be in charge of all government agents? He's like Tommy Lee Jones in The Fugitive. He's the big guy, everybody defers to him. But this wasn't the way it was in the first story. He was just an assassin for hire. He was way down the chain. I don't think they properly researched this character at all for this. The kids are highly annoying, by the way, especially the main kid. He's got this smarmy look on his face, like he knows he's the toughest kid in the universe, and he's very proud of it. But I just wanted to wipe that look off this kid's face like you wouldn't believe. I was totally confused as to what this kid's ability actually was. So he seems to be able to drain other people of their powers for purposes unknown. So if Charlie's using her fires around him, he can pull those fires into himself. But why, I don't know. There's another scene where this other kid tries to mind control him, and yet he just kind of drains that kid and makes him feel ill. But given that this is meant to be the big toughie, the big bad kid, this ability just seems really defensive and ambiguous. It's not really properly explained. And at the end of the film, and I'm going into spoilers now, but you probably don't care, when Charlie and this kid have their final face-off, the way that Charlie gets the better of him is to just bear hug him, and that makes the kid fall down dead. But why would Charlie have even thought that that might work? Why would a girl who's got this fire ability, why would hugging somebody who can drain people of all their powers, why would that favor the person who can make fires if the two were to hug together? What's the science behind that? And why did Charlie think it would work so well, given that this kid has got the better of her for the entire film? It's just so random and there's no logic to it at all. It wasn't lost on me when I was watching this that X-Men, the original film, came out in 2000. This was cobbled together in 2002. So it feels like they were trying to sort of jump on the bandwagon of the whole emerging superhero, people with abilities type thing. Because this definitely feels more of a superhero thriller film than it does a horror sci-fi film, certainly. They've even got one kid among the group who's got like glasses where you can't see his eyes. I'm sure there's a character in the X-Men who's just like that. So it does feel like a little bit of a cheap knockoff of that concept, and it's it's just way worse than the first film. I did not enjoy it one bit. Charlie has a love interest in this one, and why not? She's an adult now. The trouble is, the guy they've cast to play this part has no chemistry with Marguerite Moreau at all. It's kind of painful to watch their romance. This guy, he's like an extra campy version of the star from Gremlins. I can't remember his name. Is it Zach somebody? But anyway, he's pretty poor on the whole. Charlie goes to bed with him at one point, and she also goes to bed with another guy at the start of the movie, and yet both times she can't see intercourse through to the end because due to her ability, her body just overheats too much during sex. So halfway through, she's literally got to stop, get off the bed, and be like, "Oh no, I can't carry on. I need to cool down. Sorry, it's not going to happen tonight." So she's basically cursed. She can never have sex. Seemingly, she can only go sort of halfway. But these poor guys who she's with, they're just kind of sat there like, "Well, how am I going to cool down?" You know, I mean, obviously, a woman can say no halfway through. That is allowed, but if you know in advance that you're only going to be able to get halfway through, what's the point in even starting? You're just hurting yourself and your partner. Maybe if she wore like some kind of ice pack suit to bed, then maybe then she could go all the way, but I guess that wouldn't look that sexy, or and it'd be very cold. My final criticism today is that there are way too many flashbacks. I'm guessing they just wanted to fill out the runtime, so at periodic intervals we get to see various scenes that happened first time around, except they didn't have the permission to actually use those scenes, clearly. So they've reenacted their own versions that look a hell of a lot cheaper. For example, the scene in the original film where Charlie sets on fire all those FBI agents outside the farm, that was quite a big farm in that scene. But this reenacted version, all the characters are stood in front of this like tiny hut. It's minuscule, and all the flashback scenes just have that feeling of cheapness about them. The fires look quite good throughout this entire movie. I will give this production that praise at least. This isn't a completely cheap affair all round. It's just badly written and badly cast, and there's no idea here. There's no great reason for doing this all over again other than the fact that somebody at some point in the early noughties decided, hey, let's just throw together a quick Firestarter sequel for reasons even we don't understand. Let's just do it. So anyway, I think I've just about come to the end of this. One last thing before I go. When it comes to this Firestarter 2 DVD, which I totally regret buying, by the way, on the back it says Charlie's back and she's just burning for revenge. No, she's not. She doesn't want revenge in this film. She's literally just trying to flee. She's not after revenge against anybody. So whoever wrote this probably hasn't actually seen the movie, but whatever. Right, let's get to the bag of terror and find out how we're going to score this. So we've got one lighter and half a Michael Myers carving knife. That adds up to a score of 1.5 out of 5. I would not recommend this, even if you like Firestarter. There's just no point to wasting 2 hours and 40 minutes of your life on this. If it's on TV or a streaming service and it's not going to cost you any money, then maybe if you're bored, put it on, see how you get on with it, but I wouldn't recommend it. Right, we'll leave it there. Thank you for joining me. Do Add me on Blue Sky if you'd like. My name on there is the same as it is here. And other than that, I will say cheerio, bye-bye.